I had a little reaction video for y'all today. I'm going crazy with the content.
This episode of the Y-Files is brought to you by Factor.
No judge.
It was a cold October afternoon in 1974. Carl Higdon aimed his rifle at a bull elk and pulled the trigger. The gun didn't kick. The bullet slid out of the barrel, floated about 50 feet, and dropped to the ground. Carl bent down to pick it up. Then a twig snapped behind it. He felt a tingle in the air, like the static before a thunderstorm. He turned around. He was face to face with a creature. It smiled at him. Carl had no idea what it was, but it called itself Auso.
That ain't no woman. It's a man.
Heat. My first day as a woman, and I'm already going through menopause. Wait, is that how it goes?
Hello?
Ah, human. I need your help.
Why are you dressed like an old lady?
Yeah, Dirty kicked me out, and the only way I could get back... Oh.
Why don't you just use Factor? Chef, real ingredient. Told them what?
That Gertie's been making eyes at his new house.
Its sleeve like a drill. Head was...
Hey, Gertie, where do we keep the...
The thing was maybe 6'2", with bowed legs and yellow skin. It smiled at Carl, showing a mouthful of square teeth. Big, flat, and blocky like 2 rows of dice. It had no chin and no neck. Its head was right on its shoulders. Stiff hair stuck straight up like straw. It had 2 short antennae growing from its forehead, and it watched Carl through small, deep, hollow eyes. It wore a black coverall jumpsuit with belts across its torso and waist. It didn't have hands. Where one should have been, a thin metal rod extended from its sleeve like a drill, and something floated near the end of it. The creature spoke first.
How are you?
The words came out scrambled, like a vinyl record spinning backward, but Carl understood. He said he was doing pretty good. Carl Higdon wasn't supposed to be in the woods that day. He was a 41-year-old oil rig foreman out of Rawlins, Wyoming. When a crew member called in sick that morning, Carl took the day off, borrowed the company truck, and drove south to hunt elk. On the way in, he stopped to help 2 stranded men fix their truck. They thanked him by pointing him toward a good hunting spot, deep in the Medicine Bow National Forest. His good deed sent them straight to Auso. The floating thing near Auso's drill was a clear cellophane pack, the kind you get gum or cold medicine in. It held 4 small pills. Auso asked Carl if he was hungry. He said he was. The pack floated from the drill toward Carl. Auso told him each pill would keep him fed for 4 days. But here's the thing about Carl. He didn't take pills, not vitamins, not even an aspirin for a headache. Carl took one and put it in his mouth without a second thought.
Yeah, this isn't gonna end well. Let's hope that pill is more Pez candy and less Bill Cosby.
Then Auso asked Carl if he wanted to go with him. Carl said, I guess so. This bothered Carl later. Not that a creature from space visited his planet, that he agreed to everything so easily. He didn't know what Auso wanted to show him, but leaving Earth was the last choice Auso let him make.
Man, this shit fake, man. That nigga made this real.
Carl tried to lift his arms. He couldn't. He was strapped to a seat and pinned down. A large helmet weighed his head down. It reminded him of a football helmet, but this one had wires coming out of the top. The chair was inside a large glass box, maybe 7 feet long on each side. Carl could see through it. He saw the clearing and his truck, but the elk were gone. Auso pointed his metal drill at it, and the truck disappeared.
Oh, repo men have gotten scary good.
Then the box lifted off the ground and started to climb. Slowly at first, then the trees fell away. The ridge, the state. A few seconds later, he wanted to show him. But leaving Earth was the last choice Auso let him make. Carl tried to lift his arms. He couldn't. He was strapped to a seat and pinned down. A large helmet weighed his head down. It reminded him of a football helmet, but this one had wires coming out of the top. The chair was inside a large glass box, maybe 7 feet long on each side. Carl could see through it. He saw the clearing and his truck, but the elk were gone. Also pointed his metal drill at it, and the truck disappeared.
Oh, repo men have gotten scary good.
Then the box lifted off the ground and started to climb. Slowly at first, then the trees fell away. The ridge, the state. A few seconds later, the earth was the size of a basketball. Then it was gone, and all that was left was black. And Carl and Also weren't alone in the cube. The craft had 4 seats, and an alien that looked just like Also sat in one of them. Carl's rifle was there too, but out of reach. On the wall, Carl saw a control panel and a strange symbol he thought might be a map of the galaxy. Then Carl noticed a mirror mounted above his seat.
Ah, mirror on the ceiling, huh? Pretty freaky.
In the
Sorry, go ahead.
In the reflection behind his seat was the elk he shot at, or tried to. The 4 elk were there too, caged and frozen, like not moving at all. The ship was too small to hold all of this, but there they were. Also told Carl they were going to his home, 163,000 light years away. Carl couldn't say how long they traveled, but as fast as Earth fell away, a new planet appeared. The planet was barren, almost empty in every direction. When the craft landed, Carl saw a tower. It reminded him of the Space Needle, but this wasn't Seattle.
Thank God, can you imagine? Abducted by an alien and he takes you to Seattle? That's like Willy Wonka's golden ticket, but it's for Zoo Factory making oatmeal. No? Okay. That's like getting into Hogwarts and the Sorting Hat puts you in a county. Nothing? That's like finally hooking up with the cute girl at school and then you see her at the family picnic. These are jokes about disappointment.
I know what it is. On this planet, Carl learned he wasn't the only human ever taken. 5 others were already there, and none of them looked surprised.
This is the fake ad you see everywhere, right? But this is Ebony, a real game. Now I know what you're thinking, aren't they exactly the same? No, because Ebony is the real number gate runner game. Gotta try it, huh? Nobody ever believes me, but this really is just like the ads in real life.
Great! Woohoo! Oh yeah!
Carl covered his eyes, or tried to, while tears streamed down his face. The light from the top of the tower burned, and his ears rang with a deep buzz, like an electric razor. Also stayed in the shade. Carl couldn't. So Carl did a very human thing and yelled at the aliens to shut the lights off. One of them answered.
Your sun burns us too.
So not a lot of sympathy from the aliens. At the base of the tower, Carl saw 5 figures standing in a circle. They were humans, ordinary people in ordinary clothes. A gray-haired man, a teenage boy, a couple of teenage girls, a younger girl, maybe 10 years old. They chatted with each other like they were killing time. Carl tried to get their attention, but they ignored him. And nobody looked surprised. Also guided him past them and into the tower. They got into an elevator. When the doors closed, Carl realized there were no buttons. They started moving anyway. When they stopped, the doors opened into a large, empty room. Carl just stood there. He had no idea what he was supposed to do. A large glass panel emerged from the wall and floated in front of him. Still, Carl waited. Also moved to the far side of the panel, turned around and looked at Carl through the glass. Then, nothing. 3 minutes passed, then 4. Also didn't say a word. The alien was studying Carl methodically, clinically. Carl knew that look. It's the look a doctor makes when studying a chart or an x-ray, looking for fractures or a tumor.
I know that look. I give it at a Chinese buffet. I just stand there dead-eyed, grinning and homicidal like Private Pile.
And that's why we never go to lunch.
I'm telling you, I got a reputation for odd appetizers. The busboy calls me the Crab Rangoona.
Carl didn't know what he was going to get from this creature. Maybe a message for mankind or some sense of what this all meant. Instead, Carl got a judgment.
You're not what we want. We'll take you back.
No apology, no explanation, just rejection. Also walked him back to the ship and handed him his rifle.
This weapon is primitive, but I'd like to keep it. I am not allowed to.
Then Also pointed his drill arm at Carl's pocket. The pill pack floated out and up, back to Also. They gave Carl back his gun, but they took back their evidence. Suddenly, the tower, the 5 humans, and the blinding light were gone. Carl watched it all fall away from inside the ship. Then through the bottom of the ship, a blue light grew out of the darkness. Earth. Carl didn't know how long the journey took, but he was home. Carl floated out of the ship and down into the forest. He never walked, he floated. Also and his ship were gone. Carl was alone. But he felt strange. Then he realized he didn't know where he was. He didn't know how he got there. He didn't know his own name. But even though the aliens didn't want him, they took something from him. And doctors still can't explain how. The forest was more than a mile above sea level and wet. Snow covered most of the ground. His first step back on Earth, Carl slipped on a rock. He fell down the hill and landed hard. He thought he dislocated his shoulder, but he wasn't sure. He suddenly had a splitting headache. He still didn't know his name, but something told him to not take any pills for the pain. That much he remembered. Carl wandered between the trees in a daze. Nothing was familiar. He walked right past his truck without recognizing it. He kept going. He walked a mile up the road, then he turned around and came back. He went back to his truck. He still didn't know it was his, but something made him get inside. He heard a woman's voice crackling on the radio. He picked up the handset and asked for help. Around 6:30 that evening, Carl's boss heard a familiar voice come over the company CB. He asked Carl for his name and location. Carl couldn't give him either one.
I don't know. I'm so cold.
Carl said he was sitting in a pickup with a funny stick in the middle. He was describing a stick shift. Carl drove stick his whole life, but he couldn't remember how it worked. The sheriff put together a search party, and 6 men went into the forest after dark. During the search, they saw strange pulsing lights in the sky, green, red, and white, moving in formation, too high for a helicopter and too low for a plane. They hovered over the forest like they were also searching for something. The search party found Carl at 11:30 that night, soaking wet and shaking. He lived and worked in the area, so the men recognized him. But Carl insisted he didn't know any of them. He didn't recognize his own wife, who joined the search. And when Carl finally spoke, he said only 4 words.
They took my elk.
Carl got to the hospital in Rawlins at 2:30 in the morning. His eyes were bloodshot and stinging. He complained about the painful bright lights. He couldn't keep his balance. And through it all, he still had no idea who he was. Doctors examined him and put his x-rays up on the light board. Years earlier, Carl had tuberculosis so badly that scars showed up on every chest x-ray he ever took. That night, they didn't. The scans were clean. Carl's kidney stones were gone too. He had them for years. They were bothering him earlier that week. But after that night, he never got a kidney stone again. Something healed Carl. The doctors had no idea what could have done it. But they agreed on one thing. Something happened to Carl Higdon. But it wasn't all good news. Carl had no appetite. That worried the doctors. His wife pushed him to eat, but Carl refused. Then Sunday morning, he woke up starving. He tore through his breakfast, then he ate more, and more and more. He ate everything in the house and complained there wasn't enough food. It was the first thing Carl ate since he swallowed Also's alien food pill. Doctors didn't believe Carl's story of being abducted. They couldn't find any proof of it in his body. But they found the proof in his pocket.
Why are you still using bots for your meetings?
How else am I gonna remember what happened? Just use granola. Okay, what's granola?
They're playing with me. Sorry, y'all. I be watching this shit all the time, so like, it might not look like I ain't paying attention.
Followed Also's alien food pill. Doctors didn't believe Carl's story of being abducted. They couldn't find any proof of it in his body. But they found the proof in his pocket. While Carl was in the hospital, His wife Marjorie went through his hunting clothes. She folded his pants. She hung his wet shirt out to dry. When she picked up his jacket, she realized it was inside out. The sleeves were pulled all the way through. As she straightened the jacket, a bullet fell from the pocket. It had been fired. She was the wife of a hunter. She was no stranger to bullets, and she knew the difference between a bullet that was fired and one that wasn't. But something was wrong about this one. Carl's rifle fired 7mm Magnum bullets. Carl liked to point out that a 7mm Magnum could punch clean through a telephone pole. But the bullet in Carl's jacket was peeled back and turned inside out. The lead core was missing. Only the copper jacket was left. The police couldn't explain it, so the bullet went to Dr. Walter Walker, a metallurgy consultant. Walker said the bullet hit something extremely hard with tremendous force. That means something was in the air 50 feet in front of Carl on that mountain. The bullet went into storage at the University of Wyoming. Then it disappeared. And then there's the truck. The two men Carl helped on the drive in knew where he was headed. The search party knew where his truck was supposed to be, parked at the end of a logging road. But it wasn't there. They found it 3 miles away, sunk to the axles in a mud hole.
Oh, that sounds like one of those southern sayings when someone's in big trouble. Boy, I messed up so bad that I'm just sunk to the axles in a mud hole.
You're right, it kind of does.
They got the best sayings. I'm in so much trouble, I'm crapping hymnals and praying in cursive. It's so hot out, I'm dangling lower than a fat granny's porch swing. I'm so hungover, I'm blinking in Morse code and apologizing to furniture.
This was rugged country. Carl's two-wheel drive truck had no business going there. The searchers couldn't even drive it out. They had to tow it. And the men who found it all agreed on one thing. That truck didn't get there on its own. But there were no tire tracks. Not from the truck, not from anything that could have dragged it there. The truck just appeared in the mud. To the men on that mountain, the bullet and the truck were proof that something happened to Carl. They couldn't say what, but Carl eventually got his answer. Carl Higdon learned exactly why the aliens wanted an undamaged human body, and exactly how they planned to use it.
How the fuck you figure this out?
Carl was right about the symbol on the wall of the ship. It was a map of Auso's solar system. 9 planets circling one volatile star. Auso's planet was harsh and dying. Its sun burned so hot that Auso's kind had to wear special coveralls outside. The oceans used to be full of life, but now nothing could survive in the water. This was a critical part of the food chain that collapsed. There wasn't enough food on their world, so Auso's people went looking for others. They came to Earth, but not to make contact and not to share knowledge. Auso told Carl exactly what it was doing in those woods that afternoon. It was searching for food. Auso was like Carl. He was a hunter. Carl remembered none of this at first. His memory came back in pieces, and it started when his daughter walked into his hotel room. He knew her face, and then his wife came back to him, then the broad strokes of the hunting trip. But when Carl reached for what happened on the alien planet, he hit a wall. So Marjorie called Dr. Sprinkle.
She called the ice cream man?
That was Mr. Frosty.
Ah, that's right.
Dr. Leo Sprinkle was a psychologist at the University of Wyoming, and he was a hypnotist.
Dr. Sprinkle's research partner was Dr. Jennings. They had a falling out over regional terminology.
Okay. 8 days after the encounter, Sprinkle drove down to the Higdon home. His family gathered around, and Rick Kenyon, a local art teacher, sat nearby with a sketch pad. Sprinkle swung a pendulum and guided Carl deep into his subconscious. Once Carl was under, some memories came back. As Carl talked, Kenyon drew the creature Carl described. That sketch became the face of this case. Every picture of Auso you've ever seen started in that living room. Every time Sprinkle guided him down, Carl stopped at the same place, the elk. Finally, the wall broke, and his memories rushed back all at once. The elk in the cage, the tower, the other humans, and the thing Auso told him on that barren planet. Auso hunted animals, collected them, and carried them home to breed them for food. Animals like elk, and animals like Carl.
Soylent Green is people!
Right,
It's a cookbook! Feed me, Seymour!
Are you done?
There are a lot of quotes about aliens eating people.
Why they
My favorite is, in his belly, you will find a new definition of pain and suffering as you are slowly digested over 1,000 years. Remember that one?
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, there was C-3PO. He was talking about the sand anus that ate Boba Fett.
Okay, that's enough.
I wish Boba Fett stayed in that anus.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, the pill Carl swallowed wasn't a kindness. It was feed. the kind you give livestock to keep it healthy in transit. The examination in the tower wasn't a scientific curiosity, it was a meat inspection. Then Carl understood why he'd been rejected. Years earlier, Carl had a vasectomy. You're not good breeding stock if you can't breed. Carl wasn't prime. He wasn't even select. He was worthless. Carl went into those woods at the top of the food chain. He came out knowing he wasn't at the top anymore. But Carl wasn't the only human on that planet. 5 others stood at the base of that tower, and nobody knows what happened to them. As for the rest of us, either we didn't make the cut, or we're still waiting to be examined.
It takes 90 seconds for this NASA-engineered AC cool down your room. It's smaller than a toaster, cools any room in
Like, for real.
A hunter goes into the woods looking for food. Instead of being an apex predator, the hunter becomes prey. It's a good story. But is it true? Well, in a case like this, most of the evidence is just the witness account. Carl Higdon was an oil rig foreman, not a writer or performer. Marjorie wrote a book about the case, but they never really cashed in. He gave interviews for years until his death in 2022, and in all that time, his story never changed. Not the dropping bullet, not Also's appearance, not the glass cube, the tower, or the exam. In 1978, Charles McQuiston ran recordings of Higdon's voice through a machine he co-invented, the Psychological Stress Evaluator, a voice stress lie detector used by police departments. McQuiston found no signs of deception. He stopped short of confirming an alien encounter, but he believes something extraordinary happened to Higdon. But one caveat, and it's a big one. Voice stress analysis is shaky science. Later government studies found that these machines catch lies at about the rate of a coin flip. So McQuiston's verdict tells us Carl probably believes his own story, but it can't tell us if the story is true. Now the hard part. The core of Carl's story appeared within days, but many details only came out after Carl met Dr. Sprinkle, after he was hypnotized, and hypnosis is also a problem. Dr. Sprinkle was a real psychologist at a real university, and by every account, he was honest and careful. But hypnosis is unreliable. Under hypnosis, the mind fills gaps. It borrows from movies, from dreams, from things you read. A person can come out of hypnosis sure of details that their own brain manufactured. Honesty is not the same as accuracy, and we can't fully separate the two. So the 5 other people, the examination behind the glass, the idea of breeding us for food, all of it comes from hypnosis, a process that we know garbles and manufactures memories. But there is some actual evidence. Everything Carl said and did before 6:30 that evening happened hours before anyone mentioned hypnosis. The bullet was already in his pocket. The truck was in the mud. And a man who drove stick shift his whole life was already on the radio, unable to name the thing in the middle of his own truck. Whatever scrambled Carl Higdon's brain that night, it wasn't hypnosis. But there's no second witness to the ship. No one else saw Also. But the strange lights in the sky that night, the search team really did see those. And they saw them before their own vehicles started moving, so it wasn't headlights. Same with the truck. It really was 3 miles from where it should have been, in rough, mucky terrain, and it had to be towed out. But some first-hand accounts say it was stuck in deep ruts, not in a bog without tire tracks. Either way, the searchers agree the truck couldn't have got there on its own. The bullet is a sticky piece of evidence, too. It really was inside out, and the lead core really was missing. Dr. Walker said it hit something extremely hard, but he stopped short of calling it anything alien. The hospital evidence is also interesting. Doctors found no drugs or alcohol in Carl's system, and they said his distress seemed honest. But I couldn't find proof that his kidney stones melted or scars vanished. X-rays can be inexact, especially in the 1970s. It's possible the scars didn't show up on one scan even though they were still there. The trip to the planet, I can't prove. The story Also told, I can't prove. But something physical happened to Carl Higdon on that mountain, and nobody's ever explained it. The truck, the bullet, the flashing lights, the changed man. There's no simple way to explain any of that. But here's what's unique about Carl's story. Every alien abduction story you've ever heard is, underneath, a story about being chosen. They picked you. You matter. They wanted you. It's terrifying, but there's a strange comfort in being special. Carl's is the only abduction case I know of that's about being rejected. Something came a long way, looked a human being over head to toe, ran a bunch of tests, and decided he wasn't worth keeping, and sent him home like a dented can put back on the shelf. The abduction isn't the scary part. The judgment is. The quiet possibility that we're already on a list somewhere, already accounted for, already graded. So the worst news isn't always that you were taken, it's that you were sent back. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My name is AJ. That's Hecklefish.
If a smiling yellow guy with a drill for a hand offers you a pill, you say no. Less assaulted camel. Then use your judgment.
This has been the Y Files. If you had fun or learned something,